Today, we're here as part of our full movie breakdown and analysis series on the 1995 film Waiting to Exhale.
In this series, we've decided to create a separate video for each of the women's stories so that we can fully examine what happens with each character without the time constraints. This video focuses on Gloria's story. Be sure to check the description for links to videos on the other ladies' stories in Waiting to Exhale. Written by Terry McMillan and directed by Forrest Whitaker, Waiting to Exhale chronicles a year in the lives of four friends, Bernadine, Savannah, Robin, and Gloria, as they literally wait to exhale and find peace with their romantic relationships.
I'm Heit,
And I'm Cheri.
and you've discovered AxiomAmnesia.
I can't wait to talk about this movie. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who've helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/AxiomAmnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
I'm gonna lose 10 pounds and eat right. 15 pounds. Okay, 35.
In the beginning, we get the voices of the four characters, and the last one is Gloria, and she is talking about losing weight, and Gloria is played by Loretta Devine.
So we learned so much about Gloria in this first real scene about her life. She's in the kitchen and it's New Year's Eve and she's cooking, and we see a young man who is her son, Tariq, and he's played by Donald Faison. And so we see, first of all, he says to her, I wish that you were going out tonight. I wish you were basically having fun, because here she is in her, head rag and just looking like she's in her house and she's just not going out to enjoy herself on New Year's Eve. So that kind of gives you an idea of who Gloria is in this movie already. And then they have this dynamic where they're going back and forth, and she gets on him about his grades and tells him, he's lucky that he gets to go out that night because of the grades that he's bringing in. And then he shuts that down real fast and kind of snaps back at her and he says,
Look, I'm doing the best I can, so just ground me now.
Pushing back at her attempt to keep him under control and to have him, do what she wants him to do as this teenager. And then we get into some of the more salacious details. She says, your father is coming soon. And he's like,
First of all, he's not my father, he's my daddy, and there's a big damn difference.
and then we find out that he doesn't really see his father all that often. And, clearly this is kind of letting us know right away that Gloria is a single woman. If the other cues hadn't let us know, we find out that, Gloria and the father are not together. And clearly Tariq has some issues with his father and is a bit bitter.
Look, I see the bastard once every 2 years, and I'm supposed to get excited? You get excited.
And then he even goes so far, because he was talking wild to her, like, where did he sleep when he was last here? You get excited when he's coming. Like, I'm not excited. You the one that's excited. I was just like, man, how you talk to your mama? And she's like flabbergasted that he says this. And I think a little bit embarrassed as well, right? Because he is calling her out for, what's going on. So that kind of indicates that, whenever the father does come around, they do kind of get it on.
Yeah, it's very interesting, his choice of words, because we like to kind of redefine and offer some connotations to different terms, like what it is to be a man, I guess, which is part of this story. And he's not my father, he's my daddy. I know it would be other people, if the father isn't around, would have it the other way, right?
Yeah,
We're saying he's not my daddy, he's my father because he's not around.
Right. Like, to me, daddy is a term of endearment. Like, daddy is the man who is there. Father is very, antiseptic and cold, right? It is just, this is the biological relationship, right? Or the familial
Right.
relationship. It doesn't have all those other connotations.
I think it may have some class connotations, right? Where higher class may have fathers, maybe. Depends on how you look at it. Because one thing I wonder is, well, are they trying to indicate class because he's going out as a teenager on New Year's Eve and he's dressed up in
Yeah.
1995,
Yeah.
like with a suit coat. Maybe people wore slacks and button downs back then, but he got a coat, a vest. a fancy shirt, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why is he dressed like this as a youngster?
Because he's acting grown and going out and about to have a good time. But even in spite of the hard time that he gives his mother in this scene, um, I think the first thing he says is one of the most important, which is that it indicates that he's concerned about her, that she's not going out, that she's not enjoying life and having fun, and that he kind of worries about her. And then when you look at the age he is, where he's an age where he is going to be leaving the home, presumably, because this is why she wants his grades to be good, so he can go to college or do whatever he's going to do after high school. And, he doesn't want her to be alone. And we sort of touched on that a little bit with this idea of family not wanting these women to be alone in Savannah's story, which, by the way, is out and it's linked in the description, where, her mother didn't want her to be alone. And she even went to some crazy lengths to try to help her not be alone. But I think the same is true for her son.
Looks just like in the book.
Hey, Gloria, you like this color?
In the next scene, we see Gloria in her place of business, and Gloria actually owns a hair salon. And so she is doing hair and multitasking and, operating in her salon as both, it looks like, a stylist because she's doing little girl's hair and kind of keeping an eye on everything else. We also see Robin in this scene, and Joseph, another hairstylist, is the one that breaks the news to them that Bernadine, another character in the movie's husband, has left her for a white woman. And so we talk at length about all of the rest of this in the other videos about Robin and Bernadine. So we won't focus on that part of it. But let's look at Gloria as the concerned friend. So when Gloria hears this, she's like, okay, wait a minute, hold on. And the first thing she does is goes to the phone and try to call Bernadine.
This is Gloria. Honey, you call me at the shop, okay? We want to know what's going on over there.
Because she's concerned. She wants to know, what's going on, not from a gossipy perspective, the way that, this gossip is going around in the beauty salon, but out of genuine concern for her friend. And so, of course, Bernadine doesn't answer the phone, and Gloria is like, hey, I'm just calling to check on you, let us know what's going on, that kind of thing. And I thought that really exemplified this kind of motherly, caretaking type of personality that Gloria seems to have, not only with her son, obviously, but with her friends as well. And so Gloria calls her, she doesn't answer, and she leaves a voice message. And then, of course, you got Robin over her shoulder talking crazy and cussing and carrying on about the fact that Bernadine's husband has left.
Hi.
Gloria?
Tariq's father, David, shows up, and the first thing that Gloria tries to do is hug him. And he basically, I was going to say he mushed her, but it wasn't exactly a mush. He kind of squeezed his way out of there. And then we get Gloria as the narrator, who says,
When David was here last time, he did me a favor by spending the night.
And I just kind of felt sad when I heard that, like, girl, he did you a favor by laying up with you. Come on now.
Lord, let him be merciful again tonight.
And then you notice what he says to her next after they kind of sit down, and it's sort of this awkward thing. And he's like, you looking healthy.
Wait, you're looking healthy?
Thank you.
Which is kind of a reference to weight. As we see later in the movie, Gloria is, a larger woman. And so she does have this complex about her weight. And we heard that in the opening scene where she was talking about losing weight. And,
that's what you say about babies, right? When they're overweight, you say they're healthy. I don't think I ever seen people refer to adults that way.
Yeah, it just was weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're looking healthy.
But maybe
Like,
he just meant you look healthy.
Yeah, it was definitely a reference to her weight to me. But then I think he is trying to be polite. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think he's saying things as a dig, but as we'll find out the reasoning behind it. But it is truly awkward for him to interact with her in a way when he knows, when he interacts with her, he knows what she wants. And he's there, I mean, albeit rather infrequently, he's really there to kind of see his son. He's not there to see Gloria. So the actor playing David is Giancarlo Esposito. And you know that he is like legendary. Even up to today, he's been in stuff like, he was in Breaking Bad, like, more recently and other things like that. But I mean, he is really just, to me, a Black actor legend who is underappreciated. I mean, you saw him in School Days. You've seen him in so many
Fresh.
so many different roles, and he is a great actor. Who really is underappreciated,
And he's always working.
mm-hmm,
Always.
mm-hmm, and he pops up in Waiting to Exhale.
I don't know why I continue to do this.
Gloria wants David to stay the night.
Yes.
First thing she tried to do was get him drunk. She offered him some wine.
Would you like some wine?
It's like, would you like some wine? He's like, no, because he know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts to ask about Tariq.
Where's Tariq?
When are you expecting him? Gloria responds,
Tomorrow.
So she knew he was coming over when he was coming. She knew Tariq would not be there. And she was thinking she could slide in her, intimate needs with him.
Yeah.
Right?
and then David says, basically he just gets up to leave at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And Gloria chases him down and says, you can always stay here. We can, like last time.
Mm-hmm. And she is very kind of coming
Thirsty.
across very desperate and thirsty in this moment. And it's actually kind of sad though, because she is so needy. And so she probably just looks forward to and waits for being able to, the times when he does come around to be able to have some intimacy with a man. And that's it. And the rest of the time she is just focused on, raising her son and working her business, which is clearly not, what she wants.
So why is this though? Is it that she just didn't move on, or this is the guy who she still wants to be with?
Well, okay, let's talk about some of the clues that we're given in this scene. The song that is playing in the background is My Love, Sweet Love by Patti LaBelle. And, it's like, my love, sweet love, with you, nothing else matters. You're my heart, and all of these. So it's like clearly a song of endearment and how much you love this other person that's being talked about. Right. I never really thought about it, whether she wants really to be with him and she's not accepting the breakup or whatever, or if it's just that she has needs, but she doesn't, she strikes me as the type of woman who is like, I have needs, but I can put those aside because they're just really these physical needs. I have this son who needs to be raised. I have this business to be run, and I'm too busy to be kind of chasing around after a man. And this man that she has this history with is kind of the low-hanging fruit. And in most cases, if what he's about to reveal, if that wasn't the case, and she's been, and they hook up every so often when he comes into town, it wouldn't be a problem for most men who would be, kind of like, okay, I'll hook up with you, whatever, and that would be the arrangement.
Yeah, but could it be that she just wants to be with this guy, and then every chance that she gets, she tries to do whatever she can, which is basically lay down with him, and hopefully
maybe he'll
turns
come back
into something more. Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Look, we should ask the viewers what they think in the comment section. Let us know. Do you think that Gloria is still in love with David, or is still hoping that she can have a relationship with David? Or is it just kind of about getting her physical needs met? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah. So after she is like, we can like last time.
I should be honest with you.
David says,
do you remember how I didn't respond to you last time?
And then he drops the bomb, which wasn't exactly a bomb, but he said,
I have been bisexual for years. But I'm not anymore. I'm gay.
And then what is her response? Not to kind of be shocked, but she doesn't believe him. She's like, you don't have to go to that length to just, if you don't want to be with me, then just say it. But you don't have to just lie about it.
David, you don't have to go to this extreme just because.
Look, Gloria, I don't have to lie about this.
And he's like, no, I'm not lying. I've lied too long as it is.
Yeah, but I have questions about his sexuality.
Okay.
He said he was bi.
Mm-hmm.
Was he really gay? Because he said, do you remember how I didn't respond to you last time? Was he bi the last time? You know what I'm saying? Or was he already fully gay? Or has he always been fully gay? Because he said he don't want to be having to basically act bi or act straight anymore. So maybe it was always that he was gay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible, and maybe, I can't represent what it might be like to be a gay man. But I would say, I think it's possible that he was always gay. We have to think of the times. Even now, it's very difficult for people to come out. And if you think of the times when this was happening, this is 95. In 95, I'm estimating Gloria and his age to be probably somewhere close to 40, if not 40. And, when he was coming along, it would be deemed unacceptable. And so, of course, as many people were closeted basically
Yeah.
because of the inability to, feel comfortable coming out.
Yeah, because this is 95, and one big moment is when Ellen came out. Like,
Yeah, the
that
Ellen
changed
TV
a lot.
show.
It made it a lot more acceptable to people for some reason.
Yeah.
That can be debated, whatever. But it was like 1997 when that happened.
And when you think about it, it's still hard for people today. And today it's a lot easier than it was back then. And I imagine back then it was easier than it was 20 years, 30 years, even before that, right? So I imagine what could have happened is that he just mimicked, he mimicked heterosexual lifestyle, right? And maybe he was having trysts with men on the side at various points because, that's really what his desires were. And maybe, at some point he was confused that he really didn't know, and I don't mean that to be offensive. I'm just saying maybe, he had to work through his sexuality. And now he's at a point where he's like, look, I'm not lying anymore. Here's the deal. And, and he
Yeah.
just tells her.
So what do you think of the character in the movie Waiting to Exhale? You basically have a man coming out, right?
Yeah.
In a black movie
Yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah. And this is very different, though, because, to me, I think it's pretty obvious that Joseph, who is the hairstylist, that
Yeah.
he was
And he's kind of a
gay.
caricature.
But he is a caricature, right? Exactly. Which is very different than David, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who is, who you would not have known if he didn't say that. So it's obvious in one case, but in this case, this is David trying to live his truth. And I think that was, it took a lot of guts.
Yeah. And I think it played a part into how we got to where we are now.
Yeah. But then I want to talk about the flip side of this. The flip side of this revelation could be a huge blow, right? It could be a huge blow to the woman's ego, to, it's like, okay, so I was so bad or I was so unattractive that, and this is an ignorant perspective, but, it could be the way some women have internalized it. I was such a horrible woman that this man turned gay, or that he was more interested in men than me, when the reality is that he was always interested in men.
Right.
Right.
And it's sort of like with Bernie, right? Bernie can never be white and Gloria can never be a man. So
Yeah.
if she does actually love him and want to be with him, then that just will never happen.
It just isn't going to work. It just would never work. And so this is, this is a tough revelation for her. This is hard. Because imagine what a blow it is too, because she was kind of looking forward to it, like, okay, maybe I'm getting some tonight. And then it goes from maybe I'm getting some to I'm not getting some, to then him revealing that he's gay. But then the thing we really need to talk about at the end of this is what this means in terms of his relationship with his son. Because earlier he says, I don't know why I continue to do this. He's almost grown, talking about Tariq and coming over, trying to see him and trying to have a relationship with him, when Tariq seems completely uninterested in that. At the end, he gives an ultimatum. He's like,
He ever wants to see me, he has to make the first move.
if he wants to see me, he has to make the first move.
Yeah. If I don't hear from him by noon, I'm checking out.
If I don't hear from him by noon, I'm checking out. And I mean just that.
Yeah.
So the thing is that we know from the previous scene that Tariq is not interested. He's basically said that I don't want to see my father anymore. And it could be because he barely comes around.
That part.
All right.
So it's kind of like you got a lot of nerve to be given ultimatums for the little few times you do come around, to then be, having your butt up on your back.
But I don't think it's an ultimatum. I think he's like, I'm here to see him. And if he wants to see me, then it'll be done. Other than that, then it's just where it is. You know what I'm saying?
But I think that is exactly an ultimatum, because
I
what he's
don't,
also
because the
saying
ultimatum
after
would
this
have
is
to-
that I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's what's implied.
I guess the ultimatum will have to be with the son.
Either he comes and sees me, or we won't have a relationship.
Yeah, because he hasn't, right? It's clear that Tariq hasn't wanted to see him and deal with him
And
anyway, which is why it's not an ultimatum. It's, I'm done trying, at least a little that I'm doing, I'm guessing.
Well, I think that we should ask the question, why doesn't Tariq want to see him? You know, why doesn't he want to see his father when he comes around? And
Probably because resentment for not being there.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like weird. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? You know, you weren't around and he doesn't want to see you, but then you're upset because he doesn't want to see you because you don't come around enough, you know? And and he's right. The father, David, is right in that Tariq is almost an adult now. And so he's gone such a long time with this relationship not really being, the bond is
I
not
don't
there.
Yeah, I don't understand that how people can not want to see someone because they want to see them, right? I want to see them and I rarely get to see them, but because I don't want to see them.
Well,
It's in a stark contrast to Gloria, who will wait who knows how long to be able to see him.
well, I think it is complicated because it's wrapped up in the person's feelings and feelings of esteem. You know, when people disregard you, especially a parent, if a parent is like, you're not worth my time, right? That is something that children will internalize. And so that's what it is. It's that you're not worth me coming around more often. And so in order to maintain some level of dignity, and you know, his, like you mentioned, his resentment, Tariq is like, you know, I'm mad because you didn't want to see me or you didn't see me. And so I don't want to see you. But then it's complicated because the feelings are mixed. I think he really would want a relationship with his father, except that he is, you know, in this position where that they don't really have the bond that they should have as
Yeah,
father and
I
son.
think it's part to deal with it to try to forget and remove the person for your life, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I won't have these bad feelings about them not coming around if I just act like I don't care, or to try to totally remove them and, think of them as not existing, basically, would
True.
be part of it.
But what we also have to do is give Tariq a little grace because he still is a child.
Yeah.
Like Tariq is not 18. He doesn't quite know how to deal with all the feelings that he's having. But I do think that what is highlighted here is the importance of fathers and their relationships with their children, with their sons, and that it can get away from you,
Yeah.
right? It can get away from you. And I'm sure that when Tariq was 6 or whenever, I don't know when they broke up, but I'm assuming they probably weren't together for all that long. So when Tariq was 6, he probably wanted to see his father and, sat at the window looking for him to come and all of that, right? And then by the time he's 8 and 10 and 13, the more you're not there, the more people figure out how to get along
Yeah.
without you.
But see, as an adult, then you will be able to understand how from little contact you have little desire for contact, right?
Yep.
Because once he becomes an adult, then Tariq can still decide to go and visit his father. But because there isn't a relationship there, then you probably won't do it, which is one of the reasons why when you, like you say, it start to get away from you, when a father is away from the kid, eventually they don't desire to have that daily contact or weekly or monthly or yearly or, so now we're to the point where it's about every 2 years.
Yeah. And then you become optional, right?
Yeah.
You just become optional. And I think it might be different for some fathers if they understood that this would be the consequence of what it looks like as it's slowly happening, either that bond breaking or that bond not being built to the level that it should be built.
And another thing, as this goes on, you're getting older, right?
Yeah.
So then your child gets grown and you haven't seen them. But then when you start to get up there 50s, 60s and stuff, then you start to really have those regrets, hopefully. But then even as a child who would be in Tariq's position, who hasn't really tried to see if there was a relationship there with the father, I believe when they get up to that age, then there may be some regrets too.
Yeah.
So you might want to think about that.
Man, like it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot to unpack just from this one scene because the implications, right?
Yeah, because it's not just that parent, right? You hear people, oh, I don't know who my father is, right? And then they go on these missions and then they discover that they have entire families, right? So you're not only dismissing this parent, you have entire families. You may have siblings and aunts and grandparents and all of this who you too as a child are dismissing.
And what I can tell you for sure is that time is something you cannot get back. Like if you miss a decade or 2 decades and you miss out on that bond that you could have with not just that parent, but other family members, that bond is just not there. It'll never be the same. You cannot really make up for lost time. You can be happy. You can look at things and say, hey, I'm going to every day moving forward, it'll be like it should be. But you can't get back the past.
Yeah.
You can't get back the past. And to me, I think that's the saddest part of some of the decisions that people make in their youth. So the next time that we see Gloria, she's just walking along, minding her business in her nice backyard with the in-ground pool. And she walks into the pool house. And what does she see?
Get out of my goddamn house!
None other than a young white girl in between Tariq's 17-year-old legs, giving him
Slobbing.
sloppy toppy.
Get out of here.
And so she is startled and surprised, and she's like, oh, get out of my house, And the woman is like, I'm sorry. Well, I can't even say woman. This girl is like, I'm sorry. And then she, runs out of there. And then Tariq is pulling up his pants as he follows her out of
Gloria says that, I told you were grounded. And Tariq says, that's why I invited her.
Sorry, Mom, I'm so sorry, Mom.
I told you was grounded.
I know, that's why I invited her over, Mom.
Bruh.
He has the mind of a 17-year-old boy, right? This is what's on, the minds of the raging hormone teenager. And, he was kind of serious. Like, I'm grounded, but you can come over. Like, he totally just doesn't get the point of the grounding. Or maybe that was just his fast excuse. But during this dialogue, she's really pissed off with him when he follows her outside, and she's like wondering what she can do. I think that she is feeling that the lack of male influence on him is showing.
Well, I think, I don't know about that, but she tries to pull a Reva Styles.
I was going to say that.
If your father wasn't gay, I'd send you right over, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your daddy wasn't gay, I swear to God, I'd send his black ass straight to him.
Which provides commentary on her and homosexuality, right?
Uh-huh.
Because if the father was straight, would it be fine to send him over?
Yeah, clearly that's what she's saying, right?
That's what it implies, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that she recognizes, like, okay, you're at the point where you're smelling yourself and you're not respecting me or my rules or kind of how things need to go, and you need to be whipped into shape by a man, which I think is the reason why she was like, I'd send you to go live with your daddy,
But what daddy is really like going to really do something about something like this?
Well, to me, I think that is the unrealistic maybe part of what a woman might think that a man would do.
Yeah, is it that what a woman would write, or is it that the character would think?
It's what the character thinks. It's an unrealistic expectation. You would think he would be, he would intervene in such a way if he was with his father. The father would handle this, right?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have to be bothered with walking in on something like this. The father would handle it. And I agree that the father would handle it, probably just not in the way that she's thinking, right? It's not,
I don't think that there's an abstinence talk from a father to a son.
And there's more likely to be an abstinence talk from a mother to a son, I think.
Yeah.
That's number one. But the other part is that she actually slips up and says, if your father wasn't gay, because I don't think she intended to divulge that, especially not so quickly and abruptly to her son.
I don't think she ever did. I don't think she was going to disclose it at all.
But I think, she blurted it out in her anger. And then he's left to kind of deal with this in his lap. And he responds, I think, in the way a 17-year-old boy probably might, at least in 1995. Maybe it'd be different today, where he's just like, begins to yell out epithets and, and be like, basically saying that his father is gay. And like, you can almost see it. And I think Donald Faison was a pretty good actor in this, playing this teenager.
Right.
Because you can see the kind of the wheels turning in his mind as he's realizing what's happening. That, okay, wait, she said he's gay. My father is gay.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying it over and over again, too.
So he rejected his father in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? And I presume that he didn't go see him at
Right.
the hotel.
Right.
And now when he hit with this news, now he has feelings about this because it's still accepted as his father and as someone is in his life. So I guess I don't know the exact word, but just in the moment I would call it like a disappointment. He's disappointed that his father is gay,
Yeah.
right? So it may cause further resentment, but that tie isn't completely severed yet.
One thing's for sure, the one in the family, because you know.
But he also gathers himself up pretty quickly and he's like, well, good thing that don't run in the family. He's like zipping his pants up, alluding
Yeah,
to
I don't think
that.
that's gathered. I think that's still part of this blow up.
Well, but what I'm saying is I think that he's putting his emotions back in check, right? In front of his mother. So, maybe after this he goes back in the room and
Yeah,
cries. Like, we don't
because
know.
I think what it is when in 1995, right? You get this. It's a somehow whatever your parents' situation is, right, or just some relatives or child. It's reflective of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, oh, this gay stuff rub off on me or indicate something about me or my character,
Right.
as Tariq. And I think that's what he's feeling there. And then he tries to detach from that by
Mm-hmm.
saying that it doesn't run in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they continue to have an argument. And she's like, basically, he's like, I'm sorry, Mom. And she's like, yeah, you sorry. You sorry.
You sorry. You're sorry about everything, aren't you, Tariq? Sorry about letting some little girl in here to suck on you little 17-year-old dick.
Like, she's really upset. And then she goes on to say, how can I trust you in Spain if I can't trust you here?
How can I trust you in Spain if I can't trust you here, huh?
And we like, Spain. Well, who said anything about Spain? So this kind of lets us in on that he wants to go somewhere. And she's contemplating whether he even has the maturity level to be able to go and conduct himself and, and go
Hmm.
responsibly,
Yeah.
So it's blowing up for Gloria
Yeah.
at this point
But
in the movie.
what's with these muted colors they're wearing? Is this just faded clothes or is this low key 95 clothes?
I don't know. It's weird because it was 95 clothes, but maybe I'm trying to think.
It's just the colors
The
are
only
weird.
time I feel like they were brightly dressed in this entire movie were the church scenes. When they were wearing their church clothes, that it was very bright.
Yeah.
Everybody is wearing, because even when I remember what Robin was wearing, her colors were muted. Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they almost fall into the background with these colors that they're wearing.
Yeah. But like the other thing is too, I was thinking about, like, I'm like, man, Gloria had a nice setup, got this in-ground pool, you got a house with a pool house, and, you're doing pretty good for yourself
Yeah.
with your business.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
This is the stupidest move you've made yet, just because you're upset with your husband.
Gloria, but I'm not going to debate this with you, all right?
We see Bernadine and Gloria, and they are clearly at Gloria's shop. And Bernadine wants to cut off all of her long, luxurious hair. And Gloria's like, are you crazy? You got one bad move, ridiculous move by your husband, and now you're going to cut off all his hair that it took 11 years to grow, and I helped you grow your hair out.
One ignorant move by your husband, you gonna come in and chop off all of your hair.
And Gloria is just like, no, she doesn't want to do it. Then Bernadine insists, and she's just like, fine. And then she begins to cut her hair, right?
11 years of growing your hair out, and look at what you're doing.
But here we see Gloria really kind of playing the role of like the beautician or barber therapist, right? This is not just a transaction where you go and get your hair done or you go to your barber, but like back in the day, you had a relationship where the barber or the hairdresser was almost like the therapist, maybe even like the bartender, right? Where you're telling your problems or you're talking about and discussing things. And so she is trying to advise her like, hey, don't make a rash decision and cut your hair. But Bernadine is not having it.
I don't know why they call this mess happy hour.
So in the next scene, we see the ladies are all out for a night at the club. And Gloria's sitting there and, she's kind of funky about being out. She's kind of like, yeah, why do they even call this happy hour? And it kind of reminds me about back to the first scene where Tariq tells her like he wished that she was going out. But you see how she does when she does go out. She doesn't really want to be there. She's just like, whatever.
That's the most poppin'est happy hour ever. Like, this is like prime time, 11, 12 p.m.
And then so she's sitting there, and then so some different things happen, and there's this point where Bernadine begins to dance with this newscaster, Herbert, and the ladies are all talking about him, and you got Robin talking about I'll slam dunk him if she doesn't want him and all this. And so Gloria really acts like the conscience of the group, right? She's like, he's very married.
He's also very married.
And then they go on to talk about how it don't matter that he's married, basically. Gloria then says, hey, I guess that means he's available. But she is constantly trying to like play the bumper for her friends, keeping them from hitting the rails too hard,
But I think she fails. I think she goes with the group.
She does, but she says it,
Yeah,
which is, I
so-
think, different.
Well, even before that, what happened? She was like asking about her hair,
Mm-hmm.
Bernie's hair that had gotten cut. She's like, do y'all like it? I don't like it.
Like it.
I like it. You like it? Yeah, look all right.
Robin is like, yeah, I like it. Or it's cute or whatever she said. And then Gloria's like, yeah, it looked nice. So just in that moment, because someone else said something different or counter, then she agreed.
Yeah.
And I think that's very indicative of someone's personality. And it can mean many different things.
But
when
she
people do
says
that.
it, but she takes it back. You know what I mean? Like, so the thing that I think that doesn't put her in the category of being like this complete people pleaser and agreeable person is that she does say the difficult things. She does say the hard things, but she's just not gonna, like, she told you that this dude is married. She put it out there, and then she sarcastically at the end of it is like, well, I guess that means he's available, kind of like as a commentary on their behavior. But at the end, she's not going to be like, why y'all still talking to that married man? Why y'all, like, she's not going to hound the situation, but she made it clear kind of where she stands on it, And the other thing that she said when Michael comes in, who was Robin's love interest at one point with another woman, and Robin is looking all funky about it. And she's just like, basically, don't embarrass us up in here. Remember that you got rid of him, so don't get ignorant up in here, because Robin might have that tendency. And I thought that was funny too, that she was like, just don't cause any problems, don't make any waves up in here.
Just never get fucking married.
Lots of us got that answer.
In the next scene, we see Bernadine and Gloria, and they are at the fair. And they have this conversation where Bernadine is filling her in on how her soon-to-be ex-husband had hidden a lot of assets and stuff like that. And Bernadine is like, I've got the solution to all of this. Never get married. And Gloria is playing kind of this listening ear for her friend. And Gloria's response to that is like, well, lots of us got that answer. And I was like, So Gloria is kind of in that camp where maybe because of whatever happened with David, she really wasn't trying to be in a relationship either.
I don't know. I think that you can so-called get the answer, but it's not because of your own choice, right? It's just that, I got the answer to never get married because I just haven't gotten someone to get married to.
And she hasn't really made the effort, right? Because it doesn't seem like she has pursued anybody or just made herself open to anybody besides David, who only comes around every blue moon.
But I don't think there's just a concerted effort to not get married is what I'm saying.
Bert, if I ask you something, you promise you won't get mad.
So next we see Gloria. She's like, Bernie, will you be mad? Look, you're not going to get mad if I ask you this question. And I thought that was sort of an insight into her personality too, right? Because she goes on to ask Bernadine if she's been fooling around with Herbert, the married man. And so it mattered to her if Bernadine would get, snarky or upset. So I kind of think maybe, to your point about in the previous scene where she seemed to be kind of following the crowd, like I do see her as sensitive to other people's reactions, right?
I think it's that self-consciousness, right? So not necessarily people pleasing. It's that people judging her, right? Because she has a problem with her weight and her looks.
Mhm.
I guess we categorize that as looks. And basically also in your thoughts, right? Because you're the odd one out in this group, like when they're just basically talking about Herbert and getting with him and stuff, right? So I think is indicative with the hair thing, right? Yeah, it looked nice. You know what I'm saying? To
Mm-hmm.
not be because it says something about you if your thoughts are different, then self consciousness can cause you to basically, want to not stand out and be different, right? Because it says something about you, much like being overweight says something to other people about you.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what I did appreciate was that after Bernadine confesses that she did hook up with Herbert one night and how Herbert is all on her back now, she tells Bernadine, she's like, you're wrong.
Bernie, but you know you're wrong.
And of course, Bernadine is like, this is why I didn't want to tell you. But she does at least say, you're wrong. Like she still is the voice of reason, I feel like, for
Yeah,
her friends, in spite of whatever insecurities she might have about going against the grain.
yeah. But she is like, I'm not like you, Gloria. I need somebody to hold me.
I'm not like you, Gloria. I need somebody to hold me, even if it is a damn lie.
Which
Even
is
if
wrong.
it is a lie.
Yeah, it's a wrong impression that she has of Gloria
Mm-hmm.
because I think she needs David, or she wants very badly, which was I think is like a need. But she doesn't dispute it. Gloria doesn't when she says that. She doesn't like, yeah, I do need somebody because that says something about you, right? That you
Yeah.
want something that you can't achieve.
Mm-hmm.
That's something negative.
But I think that in this moment, like what Bernadine was saying, gave her feather in Gloria's cap, like, you're strong. I'm weaker. I have these needs, but you don't have those needs because you're stronger than me
Right.
in this way, right?
Exactly.
Which is why probably she didn't contest it. But I'd like to also add that we know that Gloria has those needs because we just saw her with her ex-husband. I presume it's her ex-husband. I don't think that was her baby daddy. I think that was her husband. But she does need somebody to hold her, even if it's a lie, that little extra part that Bernadine adds. And I think even that is true of her, right? Even if it's a lie, because Gloria knew doggone well that it was a lie. She was living the little lie, this lie fantasy, whenever David would come to town. That's a lie.
Yeah, so she can relate.
Yeah.
Now.
She just don't tell Bernadine that she can relate.
Hi, I'm Gloria Matthews from across the street.
In the next scene, we see Gloria going to be nosy as she sees a neighbor or neighbors moving in.
What do you know about these people moving in here?
And so she walks up to a truck and she sees none other than Gregory Hines playing Marvin. And so she's like, you know anything about these people? Because she's assuming that he's just the mover, right? Because he's, he's dressed in, I guess, mover's clothes. He's got on like a cutoff sweatshirt and, some jeans or whatever.
And who's moving themselves, right? So we do see what type of family they are.
Mm-hmm.
Gloria and her son, they seem to have a little bit, got the pool house, the home, the business. He's all super dressed up on New Year's Eve,
Mm-hmm.
And this guy is moving into the neighborhood and unpacking himself. That seems odd, I would think.
Yeah, which is why she made that assumption, right? Now, one thing I love about this scene is how the background music is, and then there's this oboe playing that's like every step she takes, it's like, And I have always loved it, and I thought it was a great accent. We have to remind you, just like we did in all the other parts, that Babyface did the score and the soundtrack for this movie, and I thought this was a pretty good, scene, because it's funny and it's endearing and it's cute and all that stuff too. So the guy Marvin, he decides to kind of play with her, and he's like, I heard the man was mean, and
The guy seems to be nasty and ignorant.
all of this and that. And then he finally confesses that he is the guy who's moving in.
I'm Marvin King. Yeah, I'm your new neighbor.
And we find out that Marvin is a widower. His wife had died a couple years ago. And when she found out that he was single, she started smiling.
Yeah,
she started breathing hard.
The whole time they were looking each other up and down and stuff. But then she was like, would you like to have dinner with us tonight?
And he declines, right? And when he declines dinner, because he's like, I got so much to do, which, I mean, if you one person unpacking this whole truck by yourself, I don't think you really got time to just go out for a leisurely dinner at her house. So he's declines, but she feels rejected. And what does she do? She insults herself. I don't need to be eating this as big as I am, right?
To be honest, I don't have no business eating it myself, big as I am.
But when she recounts the dinner, she's like, it ain't nothing, just a little leftovers. She names off basically a Thanksgiving spread. She's
Collard greens, some cornbread, some candied yams, a little potato salad, fried chicken, peach cobbler, fruit slices of ham.
She insults herself. But then he's like, well, I like a woman with a little meat on her bones, basically, making a reference that his wife was a larger woman.
Yeah, well, my wife was a big woman. I like a woman with a little meat on her bones,
This reminded me a little bit of the scene that we see with Sheriff Troy and the character that's played by Jill Scott in Why Did I Get Married? And she's constantly insulting herself because of her weight. And then there's this point where Sheriff Troy has had it with her. And he's just like, look, if you got a problem with your weight, hey, fine. I don't. But if you do, then do something about it, because it's making me uncomfortable. How you're insulting yourself and stuff like that.
Not as big as I am.
If you're not happy about the way you look, then change it. Stop downing yourself. I don't like it. And now it makes me uncomfortable for you.
And I couldn't help but think about that part of the scene, because I think that clearly Marvin is attracted to Gloria. He like what he see. He watched her walk up and back, and he's liking it.
Yeah, but he does. Then she basically says that her son can bring the plate over later, and he finds out he's 17 and he's probably going to be leaving in June. But what I was thinking, this guy appears to be by himself unpacking his truck. A lot of stuff, big things. How is he going to get the big stuff out of the truck, right?
He got one of them appliance dollies.
Why didn't she
send Tariq over?
Yeah. Be like, I'm going to send my son over there.
Because she know Tariq is a little...
But I think he still would do what his mama tell him to do.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe Tariq don't do heavy lifting. You know what I'm saying? Because he does seem a little spoiled.
I guess.
So Tariq probably ain't used to manual labor.
Yeah, he probably don't.
And nor would she subject her baby to manual labor. I just think that's, I think she babies him.
And maybe if you really got it, right? And you in this upper class somewhere or somewhere close, kids probably just don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be like, my son is going to help.
Yeah, it's completely a different
That's my class
vibe.
showing.
Yeah. So she does say that Tariq is leaving in June, basically. But in the middle of him talking, it's like she just loses all of her hearing. She is inhaling this man, and she legit exhales in the middle. She goes into a trance and then she exhales. She's just in the middle of them having this conversation. I don't know. Even now, it's funny. It's funny to watch because I think she was so caught off guard. She was just coming over to be nosy.
They make the big woman thirsty like men. And that's really what happens here. Because in any other movie, it's just going to be men drooling over women. Because I don't even think the other characters did it like that. It's like they had their person they were attached to, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a little different than, okay, I'm drooling over this stranger.
Yeah, and something more happens for them to exhale, right? Not, just actually seeing a guy.
Well, maybe because of the character that she is, then I haven't been trying to get someone. I'm going to try to get someone, and it happens, right?
Maybe.
He's interested. She's interested. Bam. This is the one.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. And if people claim it's not, then got some deep searching to do.
Well, and your point about it being simple, isn't it lovely that it can be that simple?
Yeah.
It legit could be that simple. And so they go on and she explains because that her son wants to travel the world. And Marvin's immediate response is, yeah, he's young. Let him go. Let him go. And I think to Gloria, what the heck, but she's still interested in this guy. So she didn't pay too much attention to that. But notice she was getting information out of him. Then he starts getting information out of her, right? He's like, well, where's his daddy?
Yeah, where's his daddy?
In California somewhere.
That question, he eased that on out, right? And she's like, I don't know, somewhere in California. Like, so you were just sucking up to that man when he was in town a couple days ago. But now, you know, he's somewhere in California now.
Yeah.
But and maybe just because of his revelation too. I mean, I don't want to just say it was all because she saw a guy she was interested in. But yeah, so then they cut off the conversation and she's walking away or whatever, and he's looking at her rear view as she's walking away. She turns and looks back at him, and you just know that the sparks have really flown for them. And what I love about this scene is that Gloria seemed very hopeless before this in terms of her companionship prospects. And this is like, boom, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Look at this.
And up until this point, all of the relationships with all of the characters and all of the men just aren't good. But when you
Right.
see this halfway through, you know that this is going to work.
Yeah, and because the other men in the movie are unavailable. But we find out that he is available. His wife died a couple years ago, so that's been a long enough. It's not like she died a couple months ago. So it's been a long enough time that maybe he would be open to seeing someone else or whatever, you know, depending on his grief process. But point being that this seems like it could be perfect.
Yeah.
And I like that for Gloria.
Ain't got no cheese on the set.
You don't like cheese.
Bought the paint.
So in the next scene, we see Marvin spending time out by the pool with Gloria. He is fixing things and stuff and helping her out. She's brought him a sandwich and stuff. And, you know, he makes this reference like, you know, don't have no cheese on it, you know, does it? And she's like, you don't like cheese. And so now we find out like she's getting to know him and he's getting to know her.
Yeah.
They look happy. And I don't know. I just love everything that I see on the screen.
So Tariq comes up with a bucket of paint. He gets real close to them and he's like, I brought the paint. And you might be right. He don't do nothing.
Mm-hmm. That's
he
a
brought the paint
a
and
baby boy.
And Marvin, oh, you can't call him a baby boy, but Marvin's going to do the work.
Yeah.
You don't like cheese.
Bought the paint.
Good. You sit right down there, Tariq.
But eventually, you know, he's probably going to teach him, but if he was around earlier. But what's strange is he looks like Giancarlo Esposito character.
Well, she kind of
Yeah.
got a type a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
with that little curly hair.
You know, but like Gregory Hines, really, like he played this little role here. I like this. I liked him in this role. And so then he offers Tariq some of his sandwich, which I also thought is like now he's building a bond with Tariq, right?
You want to buy this sandwich, Tariq?
You got cheese in it?
Because I do think he would show Tariq some stuff, right? Show him how to be, you know, handy around the house in ways that maybe Gloria didn't really teach him all these years, right? Or couldn't teach him because she maybe didn't know how to do all this stuff. And so he offers him a sandwich or a bite of his sandwich. And then he's like, it don't have cheese on it. And then it's just kind of like, it says to me like they both even have similar kind of qualities. They don't even, neither of them like cheese. And I just thought that
I
was
thought
just
they wanted cheese. He said,
No.
Tariq asked if it had cheese on it.
because he doesn't want cheese.
Oh, I thought he wasn't going to eat it because there wasn't any cheese on it.
Yeah. Well, I don't
And
know. Maybe I
then
took
that's
that wrong.
why Marvin was like, see? You know, what's a sandwich without cheese?
Well, hold on. Now I feel like I got to see it again. Okay. Well, maybe I'm totally wrong about that. I thought that she knew he did it. She said, you don't like cheese.
Yeah, that's he was asking because he was saying he wants cheese.
Okay, we gotta go to the comments. Does he want cheese or not? Does Tariq want cheese or not? Because did I completely read this wrong? It's not. It's not impossible that was the case, but that's how I always took it. Was that they were similar, and neither of her little men like cheese, and she knows it. But yeah, I love what's happening between them two as their relationship is flourishing.
Happy birthday to you.
It's Gloria's birthday and they were singing, and then you hear Whitney Houston way up there harmonizing.
Sounding good. So as they're singing happy birthday and everything afterward, each of them is giving a toast to Gloria. And Robin says, you know, I hope you find true love. And in a way, I feel like that is foreshadowing what is happening or about to happen for Gloria in her life.
I hope you find true love.
But that was one of the things she does say. And it just, it's clear from these dedications that her friends think the world of her. And then it's time to, blow out the candles and make the wish. And Gloria tries to blow out the candles, and she's spitting all over the cake. And I'm like, ooh, girl.
Oh, this is pitiful.
But I do wonder, what do you think Gloria wished for?
I don't know, probably something with Marvin.
Yeah.
But back to Robin, what she said.
Mhm.
She was like, I hope you get some so juicy or whatever. Something.
Yeah.
It put an end to your 10-year drought.
And so juicy, it's going to put an end to your 10-year drought.
10-year drought of what?
Sex.
David been rolling through at least
Well, she
every
ain't told
couple
them
of
she been
years.
kissing up to David.
Yeah, and now she's with Marvin, and I'm sure he ain't just coming around there painting things.
Well, Marvin ain't doing nothing yet.
Marvin doing something.
Marvin is not doing anything yet. Marvin is a gentleman.
If you're watching this video, go to the comments and let us know if Marvin was putting it down at this point.
Marvin is not doing anything. Marvin is a gentleman. Marvin is easing his way in. They're getting to know each other. They are becoming
This is why they
friends.
think of Gloria the way they do. Where, oh, you don't need nobody to hold you like I need somebody to hold me, because she's not telling them what's going on.
Gloria is not getting knocked down by Marvin at this point in the movie. No.
All right, what about the years with David?
Okay, she kept that a secret.
All right.
I
So
will
she's
agree.
not telling them what's going on. So Gloria, she judges the other girls, right? The other women. She knows what they do, their problems, right? And that's why she's like, oh, don't get mad at me if I ask you this, right? Because from the standpoint of all of them, she's like, oh, she's wrong for this. She's wrong for this. She doesn't want that judgment, too, from them, which would be one of the reasons why she don't share as much.
But okay, now to Gloria's defense, they all have their secrets, right? All of them do, because it was a secret for Bernadine that she was sleeping with her, but she didn't tell all the other girls that. And the only reason she told Gloria is because she point blank asked. You got Savannah and Kenneth is rolling through, coming through on weekends, a whole married man and whatever, right? She ain't telling her friends that Kenneth is rolling through that way. I don't think she tells them until like later when she's thinking she's on the cusp of something, but she ain't told them the first night Kenneth rolled through.
A 10-year drought, 10 years. She ain't said nothing.
She just let him think she was just not getting none for 10 years. Maybe.
Not getting none, not meeting with no guy, nothing.
Or it could be that just was an exaggeration, right? That it could be that she was just like, you had a 10-year drought, or meaning a long, long time and you ain't been getting none, right? But it may be that Gloria just doesn't talk about the fine details. And I could understand why, too. Because the other part is that think about where they're likely to see Gloria is in the shop. She's got her other employees. Are you really talking about how you dropping it low and spreading it wide up in your place of business? Maybe not, because you're like the oldest one who's kind of got to be more of an example setter. So maybe she's just not confessing to all of the stuff that she has been involved in over the years.
Yeah, but you work at the salon too. So when you say something, it's going to spread.
That's true.
None of us have a man.
Next, we see the party kind of slow down. And then Savannah's character makes this dramatic statement that not one of us has a man. And I wanted to point out that for Gloria, even though she can't really call Marvin her man yet, she's kind of on her way to having a man, right? And we did talk about the other characters, but Marvin is kind of almost her man at this point.
He over there painting and she making them sandwiches and the mentoring the son and stuff. Come on now.
But she ain't speak up. She wasn't like, I got a man. But this is the assessment that Savannah makes, right? Based on the information she knows. And how much is she really telling any of them about Marvin? Probably nothing.
And Savannah's not that close to them.
Yeah.
She's new in town.
But later on, what happens is, long story short, Bernadine gets upset, decides to prank her ex-husband, and then Robin gets on the phone and does the prank call, and then Gloria intervenes after this call, and she's like, listen, stop playing on the phone. This is stupid, and it is childish to be playing on the phone.
Cut. It's stupid and it's childish.
So again, you see Gloria kind of just playing the buffer for her friends. listen, don't go off the rails. Like,
Why did she say cut?
I don't know why she said
It's like
cut.
cut.
She said cut, and she pulled that cord, like cut it out, maybe, cut it out, and she just said cut for like short. I don't know. Maybe it was a bad edit, and then she meant cut the scene. Even though I don't know if Forrest Whitaker, the director, would have been happy that the actor called cut. But anyway, and then later on, they're talking about, because Savannah brings up like what happened to men when men, romanced women and so on. And then they're each giving their assessment of why men are like they are. And what Gloria is like, well, the reason why they don't do this, do it is because they're
the
gay.
question was, where are those men?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, they gay.
Yeah.
They were white women.
They gay.
And then she says, they got little dicks and can't fuck.
Yeah. So I'm like, ooh, is that are you talking about David? Like, obviously the gay part.
She's
but,
talking about all the men over those last 10 years. They want to spank you.
It is kind of funny when you listen to her kind of assessment. And I could appreciate in this scene how each woman spoke to her own experiences as the reason why. You got Bernadine saying they were white women, and you got, other ones saying that they're married or whatever else is going on with them, or they're ugly. Yeah.
And Gloria says they want you to be their mama.
Now, I think, even though, because I have referred to Tariq as baby boy earlier, and I mean that like not in the baby boy sense of the movie, like as bad as him, but just this notion that, you're babying your son, like the dynamic between these mothers and these sons where they just completely baby them. And I feel like that's what she did with Tariq, which is why he's kind of like doesn't have it all the way together in terms of his responsibility levels.
Yeah, but I don't know if he don't have it together. We seen he has hormones that work.
Okay.
And she mentioned his grades, but who knows?
Bad grades, but maybe he got something else going on. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, curfew maybe?
He's irresponsible, but not out of the ordinary stuff.
Just
it's typical teenage stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's typical teenage stuff.
Yeah. But at the end of all this, all the women are asleep, and Tariq comes in. He says, "Happy birthday, Ma," and gives her a little kiss.
I know, and I thought that was so sweet.
Happy birthday, Ma.
Because I did wonder at first, like, whose house were they at? Even though I know it's her birthday party. Were they at Bernadine's party? Were they somewhere? Were they at Bernadine's house, or were they somewhere else? And so this is her house, and, he's walking through after his mother's drunk friends are passed out.
Which is strange. So 95, caller ID was clear in effect. So if, all right, y'all, don't jump on me. This is just me, a movie error talking about it. If John's new woman, the white lady, answers the phone and says John, then that means he has been calling from Gloria's house because she saw the number on the call ID and assumed it was John.
What? Yeah, no.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, just be those little things in movies that you have to tie up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But she just was expecting a call from John.
I guess.
But how did you have that number?
Because she had John's number. They lived together, right?
So you just called John's new crib with the side chick?
Exactly. And then she just, I don't know how you don't see the caller ID in 1995.
I'm trying to remember. Y'all go to the comments. In 1995, did you have the caller ID? I'm trying to remember,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I did. Yeah.
Yes. Late 80s, early 90s, maybe.
Caller ID. Yeah.
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 Just a little movie mistake.
So, yeah. Anyhow, I did like how the scene did end, though. I liked Tariq coming in and, looking after his mama.
I just don't see why he has to go all the way to Spain when he's already been accepted at Arizona State.
So in the next scene, we see Marvin and Gloria talking in the kitchen. And I must talk about the fact that Whitney Houston's Why Does It Hurt So Bad is playing in the background. And of this song, The version on the album is great, but her live version is really, to me, just the most amazing version of this song. The live version is the one that they put out like as the music video at the time that this was out. So we've got Gloria, and she's clearly upset because now it's getting closer to the time to decide, is Tariq going to be able to go with his Up with the People group and travel the world and go to Spain and wherever else he wants to travel to. And we hear Marvin saying like, hey, this is going to help to broaden his horizons and make him more worldly. Gloria is not really wanting him to go.
He mentioned stuff like he'll be fluent in Spanish and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, he's accepted into Arizona State, which is interesting. And he says he's a man now. So that's their assessments. But is it that she just doesn't want him to leave?
I think she doesn't want him to leave too far from her.
Yeah.
And Marvin understands this. See, because we also find down in here that Marvin's been coming around for the last months. He's been showing Tariq how to fix things, just like we thought he would be doing in the last scene. And so Marvin really has been this kind of male role model mentor for him over these last few months that he's known him. And Marvin understands, though. He understands Gloria, and he gets that Gloria is afraid to let her son go. And he's like, this is the best thing for your son. And he knows he's a man. He knows what he wants. And you should be glad that you raised him that way. Right. So he's complimenting her skills at mothering her son, but kind of saying it's time to let him, fly the nest and go, be a man or whatever. And he even says, I'm going to miss him too.
I'm going to miss him too.
So in other words, understanding that her issue is that she's going to miss him. She's afraid. And then she tries to deflect and be like, who's talking about missing him? Blah, blah, blah. No, this is the problem. This is exactly the problem. Marvin assessed it. But
why in all these movies, the boy is a man at 17 and just can make grown decisions?
I don't know.
Is it forcing it to say that boys should be allowed to be leading at this age? Because I think that's really what it comes down to.
Well, I just think that basic life autonomy, I think, not just boys, but people, children. If you're 17, 18, I think basic things like what you want to do next should be things that you should be able to help decide.
That should, but from all the movies that I've seen, it's not like that. It's only about boys. It's about Trey. It's about Tariq. It's not about Brandy or, it's just the boys or men.
Well, and
they never be like a girl is 17, be like, she's a woman. She can decide.
Well, there is a bit of a double standard that I will say in this patriarchal society in which we live. And the double standard is that, your daughter is going to need more guidance and cover for longer than your son. But you're teaching your son how to lead and do all of these things that people don't think about that they're teaching their daughters, right? I mean, which is maybe why it's emphasized in these movies. But in this case, I think it depends. So the question is, to me, like, based on what we know, should you let Tariq go? Or should you not? I think it's perfectly fine if you let Tariq go. But the question is, like, is this a matter of who's financing it? Is it, I mean, she's got the money, I'm sure, for him to go. So it seems to just be about whether she wants him to go or not, or gives him permission. But my question would be, if he's 18, why she got to give permission?
Yeah, I think it's about money, but also you still are in charge. Like, kids can be 18, but that don't mean that you really making decisions.
This is facts. When I was 18, not a decision did I get to make.
Somebody just posted on my social media about how do you basically parent your 18-year-old kid. Like, what's their curfew and stuff like that.
Well, I don't know. What I'll say is that when I was 18, it wasn't really much difference than being 17. The only difference was I went to college and I lived away from home for a period of time. But that thumb was still on me. I still had to go to my parents for everything. I was not self-sufficient. I did not have a job. I was in school, and everything that I had flowed from my parents. And if anything I wanted, I had to give through them.
It's really about asserting yourself, right? Because the law can say that you can make these decisions, but then you have to be like, hey, I can do this, right? But if
Yeah.
you do that as a 18, 19, 20-year-old who's living with your parents, they're going to be like, well, this is the results of that because you still aren't able to be on your own.
That's true.
Right. So then it always comes down to back in the day, you can't use my phone. You got to pay rent, and all of this or get out.
Well,
So
what
it's teaching you kind of about navigating social life and the economy somewhat.
Yeah, but what I also don't like though is I don't like this notion, when I hear people be like, when you turn 18, you got to get out. You got to go, I don't like that either because I acknowledge that at 18, most people in this society are going to be ill-equipped to be successful out in the world by that time. Even if it's just the simple fact that even if they were completely mature, the ability to take care of themselves financially,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is going to be very hard at 18 with, any type of entry level job or whatever job you could qualify for and get presumably with a high school diploma. Like that's going to be really hard out the gates because you don't even have the opportunity to work yourself up to better salary. You haven't had the chance to really learn a whole lot of things. Maybe if you were somehow in one of these high school vocational programs and you could come out and you can be like an LPN or LVN at graduation or something. But those are unique cases that don't really exist across the board.
Or if you started your YouTube channel like at the age of 14 and it got
yeah,
popping.
then it could work. But if it wasn't like that, then I just think you do your kid a disservice to even talk crazy like that. When I hear people talk like that, I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Is like, oh, my kids got to go at this, or I'm kicking them out at whatever age. You have done your kids a disservice, and you can argue with whoever your baby mama about it, or you can argue with your baby daddy about it. Don't argue with me because that ain't right. But anyway,
So Marvin
Why are you telling me all this?
says after all this, during all this, why are you telling me this? Right. And she is like, because, you've been coming around showing them stuff, teaching them stuff, how to fix things. You took him fishing, and I thought you could talk some sense into him.
He looks up to you. I thought maybe you could talk some sense into him.
and Marvin says in return, it doesn't seem like Tariq is the one I need to talk who needs to come to him his senses.
Yeah.
It seems to me Tariq is the one who needs to come to his senses.
So she just thought that, all right, so you've been guiding him, right? You got some male influence. Now I just need you to seal a deal and tell him he can't go.
Right. I want to be able to kind of use you, have my will be carried out through you with no,
she probably assumed that he would agree with her.
Well, I think so. But she was wrong. And she should have known she would be wrong, because even when he didn't know Tariq, he was like, let him go. He's a man. The first time she met him and they mentioned it, he was like, let him go. He that's what his opinion was. But I want to talk about why Marvin says, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this? And I think that this is like one of those subtle things between men and women, and how men tend to approach things. When women bring things to men, I think that the men in your life like this, because I mean, even though they don't have anything official, like this is her man at this point, as far as I'm concerned, and he wants to fix things. He's part of his natural inclination is going to be she's unhappy about something. How can I make it right? How can I fix it? But then in the discussion, he realizes that he's like, okay, well, basically, what do you want me to do? Why are you telling me this?
Well,
and when he better understands that,
no.
Then he realizes, okay, well, tell me,
so,
get me right with it.
Sometimes I know women very well, y'all. So
really,
sometimes women are venting.
Yes.
Sometimes they want things to be done.
Yes.
There's no difference in the way that they do. They talk about that. So that's why he asks, why are you telling me this?
Well,
right? Is it you just venting, or do you need something fixed? And if you need something fixed, this ain't something I'm fixing. So
we're not saying two different things, because I would agree with you. And I would say in that understanding, because, sometimes I would think about.
But I don't think he's coming at it as a fixer. Is why I said no.
What I'm saying is his natural inclination is is to kind of like, how can I help? How can I make things right? But he understands in a certain situations, either A, he isn't going to get involved himself to a certain degree, or he can't. You know, he either can't or he's not going to. But the desire to want things to be fixed is what I'm talking about, to figure out how it is. And like I was only saying this from, like, you know, when I think about sometimes, even in the past, like if I come to you with something and I'm telling you something, like it took me a while to realize that action is going to follow, and that I have to be clear that I'm venting. If I'm just venting and there's nothing I really have an expectation, you know, like I'm not saying telling you this problem because I want you to fix it or there's anything to fix. I'm just venting. But if I don't tell you that, then, and you know, obviously you, like you said, I know women very well. Well, okay. So you recognize that it could be venting or it could be not, and it looks like the same on the surface to you. You know, but just the idea that if it was something that I have an expectation of, like action needs to happen, that I do think that that's any good man in your life is going to be trying to help fix it.
Yeah. But what about the way he asked the question? Why are you telling me this? I don't think it was in a way of, I want to know if I should be doing something. I guess it's because at the point that he asked it, there was already some conflict there.
Because I think he realized, right? I think he realized that this would be the first real argument, or it is the first real argument, because it wouldn't matter how he reasoned with her. Her feelings about it are her feelings. And in spite of his attempt to calm her by saying things like, I'm going to miss him too, or, you know, whatever, there is no appeal that is going to work when a person is not ready to do whatever the potential remedy is, right?
Yeah.
And I think he realized that, which is why in that moment he was a little bit frustrated, but I think also he's like, okay, why are you telling me this? Because I need to know, like, what are your expectations? Like, to me, that's another way to ask that same question. What do you want from me? what do you want me to do?
What was he doing over here?
You know, huh?
What was he doing over here? Was he fixing the kitchen sink?
He probably was, because she had a lot of things that had gone in disrepair. You know, she needed him around to do, like, he fixed everything.
They just put his toolbox strategically on the table and stuff.
He's making sure he ain't gonna sit around and let your be chirping. You know, anyway, so that's what I'm saying. I just think Marvin wanted to help as much as he could, but he was wise enough to recognize that this issue was bigger than something he could just wipe his hand and fix. So then when she snapped off on him,
Good night.
then he was just like, looks like it's time for me to go.
It's getting late. I better.
Because he doesn't want to have an even larger conflict with her. Because he does care. And she was being real funky in the moment because she got upset.
What's up with people's squad that's going to Spain? Is it this good?
So in the next scene, we see Gloria in church with Tariq, and she has a little bit of a surprise for him. She basically has told the pastor to make sure that he sends out a prayer for Tariq's safe travels. Up to this point, Tariq thinks that he is not going to be able to go to Spain and other parts of Europe to travel around with this orchestra. And he plays the saxophone, we find out in this scene, by the way. He realizes that he's going to be able to go when, you know, the prayers send out for his safe travels and stuff.
Safe journey of her son Tariq, who'll soon be on his way to Spain for a year.
And he's so excited. And then Gloria looks very proud. And at the same time, she looks like she's confident in her decision to let him go as well. Which I guess maybe inadvertently Marvin did talk some sense into her.
Yeah. He said to play the saxophone with the Up With the People orchestra, right?
Yeah, international orchestra or something. Like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
To play the saxophone in the Up With People International Orchestra.
Did we know that he was playing saxophone? Or that it was for music?
I don't know.
And we're
but-
talking about the movie, if you're listening.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we did, but there's a point where I think he's playing the saxophone right before the birthday party.
That's what I was about to ask. Was that
Yeah,
him?
I think that was maybe supposed to be him. Playing the saxophone right before the birthday party where they start to sing happy birthday, right? And so that was supposed to be him playing the instrument. So, clearly in order for him to have gotten good enough to be trying to travel the world with an orchestra, then he's got some
Yeah.
level of discipline and attention to things.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of different ways we can take it if they tell us that earlier, but one of them is to not like her as much, right? Because if you're saying he can't go and he's just this great musician, who has the opportunity to go play internationally, then it's like, bruh, come on now.
You're holding
as a
him
mama.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus he just wants to go with this group to do whatever they do. That's a little different.
But I
When-
think that, well, that to me, that's the dilemma, right?
Well, it depends because you could just be going just to go with a group who maybe is volunteering for some random things versus going to university or going to university versus being an international musician.
Well, my question is, he's only going for 1 year, so like, why does this mean he can't go to school?
Yeah, that too.
Like, he's only gone for a year, we find out, and he can go to Arizona State when he gets back.
Yeah, that's true too. But the thought would be if we knew that he was into music, that he may never go to Arizona State.
That's true too. That might be the mama's fear.
But I don't see why not. Hey, 5-6 years down the line, just don't have too many babies, bro.
And that could be the compromise, right? To me, like, I think it would be perfectly reasonable to say, okay, go for your, I don't want to call it a gap year, but, go for your year doing what you want to do. But when you get back, it's time to go to Arizona State. And, the compromise is, I don't know, maybe you major in music or do whatever. And you do that.
Yeah.
But
So-
she's letting him go, and she seems happy that she is letting him go. And I do think that this speaks to how hard that can be, because this is your child. You've raised your child all these years, and in her case, mostly on her own. And you're obviously going to be very attached to your child, and learning when to let go, when to kind of let them go out in the world and be on their own. I don't think it's always easy.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I do think it's hard for parents,
Now she could,
especially because she only has one child and a son.
now she can go on with her life that he's gone, right? Because you don't have to worry about what's going to happen to him. You have some people who's like, oh, I don't choose to get with another guy until my kids are grown because I don't want to be bringing guys into their lives and stuff like that. So you don't have that. She can focus her time and energy somewhere else and not really worrying about what's happening with her son and if he's doing, making the right decisions and stuff like that. He's just gone. He's sort of like with the daddy, out of sight, out of mind for the most part.
Well, this kind of reminds me of the movie Baby Boy, which, by the way, we are covering on our other channel, AxiomAmnesia. We'll put a link to the breakdown of Baby Boy that we're working on right now, but we're doing a series on it. And it reminds me of when the mother in Baby Boy says, mama got to have a life too. And mama wasn't saying that in this movie. But at the end of it all, mama got to have a life too. And this is a prime time.
Yeah. So that was one of the things when she was speaking to Marvin, what she said, right? Because it could be, she asked about her kid and how old he was.
Mm-hmm.
As a man who doesn't appear to have a kid or a young kid at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least one he's taking care of.
Right.
Is that, okay, if I get with this woman, then do I have this boy, right? But she headed it off and was like, he's 17, bam, he's supposed to be going to Spain in June. Right? To be like, you don't have to worry about there being this other thing we have to worry about in our relationship.
Right. This Jody and Melvin dynamic, like from Baby Boy, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to all be up in there together. Plus, Marvin got his own house next door.
How you been doing? Haven't seen much of you lately.
Gloria shows up at Marvin's house, knocks on the door. Marvin is, of course, fixing something at the moment. He don't stop fixing stuff.
And he don't even respond to her.
Yeah, she's like, "How have you been? I haven't seen much of you lately." For that to happen, I don't know, like, what did that argument didn't seem that big of a blow up for them not to even be. But I guess he just didn't want that sort of a drama, right? It was all good, and then we got this disagreement, and I don't really want to be around anymore.
I
But
think his feelings was just hurt, and he went to his corner and licked his wounds.
yeah,
That's what
so
I think.
she said I acted silly, basically what she said. When you really just wanted to tell me the truth or whatever.
I acted silly when all you did was tell me the truth. I guess I didn't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't want to hear it, right? Which goes back to what I have been saying. Why she wouldn't share all of this stuff with her friends either, right? Is because you don't want to hear it. You can't accept it. She couldn't accept that David was gay, right? And he had moved on possibly. It's that not wanting, I guess sort of that self-consciousness part of a thing on top of it too. Then that's what it is. She don't want to be judged, I guess, even if it's appropriately.
But what I do respect is that she came over there for a reason.
Marvin, I have no doubt in my mind everything you said was true, and I apologize.
She realized that she needed to make it right with this man, and that if she wanted this man, she was going to need to, come and do what was appropriate, which was to apologize, because she really did act unreasonably in that moment, and she did kind of bite his head off. And it's understandable why he sort of went back to his corner and did his thing.
I think it was him.
Why?
Because she said, I thought you could talk some sense into him, right? And then what he said was, he ain't the one who has to come to his senses. That sounds
But her
little,
response is, that
You know
was
what
a
I'm
little
saying?
bit harsh.
Yeah.
That was harsh, but you know what I will say is that Gloria has had a history in this movie of acting like she can't read the room on certain things. The same way as she saw how David was pulling away from her. He didn't want to give her, so you push people to say like harsh things sometimes when you acting dense and, you still trying to push what you want, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me was the consequence. And we saw it 2 times in this movie, at least with 2 separate men, who one cared about her. Well, I think they both cared about her, but David is not interested in her romantically because he's gay.
Yeah. And she was like, I can't believe you would go to these such great lengths.
Yeah. So she didn't, and so that's how I interpret it. But she knew, and she was, what I appreciate about Gloria is, with all of her flaws or anything else, she was a woman about it. She knew she owed him an apology. She came over and she apologized to him. And he was kind of cold at first, even though she had apologized. And then she was like, all right, well, I'm turning to leave. He was like, well, hold on, baby.
Wait a minute, wait. Come on in.
Because he wasn't going to let her leave either. He's a reasonable man. And see, this is what I appreciate about reasonable people. Reasonable people know when they need to apologize and understand that when a person has gone out on the limb to apologize and is willing to accept it, like they're not going to let this be the stumbling block that just stands between them for no reason except ego. So he calls her back and whatever and tells her to come on in, but she was about to be back out the door because what else was there to say? He's giving her the cold shoulder until he tells her to come on.
He just left. He wouldn't even let me take him to the airport.
And they go to sit down. Gloria confesses that Tariq has just left and that he wouldn't even let her take him to the airport. And she just like totally confesses in my mind. Like,
he's been the man in my life, my companion, more than just my baby.
She unloads all of her feelings that she has never trusted anybody else, not even her friends with. That he's been the man in my life, she said. My companion, more than just my baby. And now he's gone.
Yeah, and I think that not that is a confession. It's that it's an analysis of herself that most people can't even do. They don't understand the reasons that they're making decisions, even if it's so-called emotional. That a lot of people like to say, "Oh, it's just emotion," but there is still something behind it.
Well, she took the feedback and she went and sat and thought about it. And then she applied that feedback and was honest with herself. And now she's reconciling it and admitting it, and by confessing, I mean, she's actually saying it, outwardly to him.
I gave up. A long time ago on any hope I had of finding someone for myself.
And she said that she gave up finding someone for herself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and in doing that, that is how she latched on to her son as basically her lifelong companion, and she wouldn't let him go.
And she also mentions, like, that's a terrible thing to do to Tariq. And as she's saying this, he's coming closer. He's like, I miss you too.
I'm grateful to you, though, for opening my eyes.
I miss you too.
So he's listening to her, and he's responding to things that she had said earlier in the conversation where she's like, I miss you. We miss you. I miss you in my life. And then continues on, and she's talking about how she was unfair to him.
You wouldn't allow my fear of being alone to get in the way of him growing up and doing what he has to do.
And Marvin's response is, you haven't been unfair to Tariq. Now, I think she was unfair to Tariq with that expectation, but she was also unfair to herself, which is what Marvin does tell her. And he said, you've been unfair to you. You've been unfair to us.
You haven't been unfair to Tariq. They've been unfair to you.
Well, I think it's about where it's directed, right? It's saying that it doesn't matter what happens after that. It's because of what is upon you that these other things happen, right? So it's not that you're doing something directly to Tariq. He's kind of like a casualty of war. You know what I'm saying? Collateral damage, right? It's that you've done something to yourself. And first you got to get over that. And that's what we talk about all the time when it comes to personal responsibility and stuff like that.
Right.
It's from a different sense, though, that the things that cause these people to do these certain things, right, in a personal responsibility sort of way, like those factors is the issue, right? She's the issue, right? What she done to herself, not what she done to Tariq, because that's just bound to happen until you get rid of that thing that's at that higher level of you allowing someone to love you, because he said it's like you don't feel worthy to have someone love you.
It's like you don't feel you're worthy to have someone to love you.
Mm-hmm. But I talked about, and I mentioned that he's assessing as he's going on. She's confessing, he's assessing, and he's like, it's like this is what, he's giving her more truth. Like, you don't feel like you are worthy to have someone love you. But what does he do in that moment? He fixes it. Bam. I love you, though.
I love you.
No, don't say it.
Yes.
You know me.
He said, I love you. And he says it again. And she's like, no, don't say that. I mean, and this is like one of the couple moments in this movie that just makes me tear up, because he came and got her from where she was, but she was also ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I just think that to see that exchange between two people is just, man, this was just top notch acting and everything else in this scene. I love everything
and
about
then
this scene.
Behind them, it's raining, right?
Mm-hmm.
In any other movie, rain is bad, right? It's breaking up and that sort of a thing. But here, we're in a desert and it's raining. So I think that's a really good thing.
And it's cleansing.
And her drought is over.
Her drought is over. It's cleansing. Let the rain fall. Because the next thing after the I love yous is, boom, they kiss, presumably for the first time. Now, you think he been hitting it the whole time. Personally, I don't think they had. I think they were each maybe holding back a little. Because remember, he also was a widow. He presumably probably hadn't really been with another woman. So, he was maybe taking it super extra slow, right? And she was taking it slow for different reasons. So I do think that this was the first kiss and the first everything, because, when they laid down on that couch, it was over. He kissed, leaned out to kiss her. She kisses him back, and the deal is done. It's like, this is the best love story in the movie.
The other three their resolutions aren't that good. right? They aren't that high. It's like the rest of the characters were slowly tumbling down the hill and they got to the bottom. And that's that's the resolution. On this one, she was headed up the hill and that's where it ends. Right? They got to begin their climb to get to where Gloria is now.
Yeah. And the other part is I do think, because Gloria is a little smidge older than they are, I do think that Gloria has done some introspection and work. She is more in tune with who she is than maybe some of the other characters in the movie, and more in tune even with what she wants. Now, which is why she was probably able to just assess and accept what Marvin told her, even though she didn't want to accept it to him. She didn't really want to hear it, but deep down inside, she knew it was true what he said. She knew that she was holding on to him. But one thing I want to get back to is this admission that this child has been her companion and he was the man in her life, and kind of just an awareness of when a parent could be doing that to a child.
So, do men do it? Single fathers of girls. Is this unique to women?
That's a good question.
I don't know if
I think lesser so, because I think single fathers will still have a woman in their life. You know, they'll have a woman, but they just have princess daughters a lot of times, right? But these single mothers, and I'm not trying to, convict a person for being a single mother. That's not it. I'm saying the ones who behave in this way, it's like you're telling the child, you the man of this house. Other people are reinforcing that message, right? Gotta take care of your mama. You the man, and little boy just 6. No, you are not the man of the house. You are a child.
In the opening scene with Tariq, that's what he was trying to do. I wish you would go out, mama. He was trying to take care of his mama.
Yeah.
But she had different plans because she was, I guess, sort of content with him. But I do think that's kind of why she tried to attach herself to David as well, because maybe it was. She still wanted that old spark because she felt that something was there.
Between her and David?
Yeah. At least back when they had Tariq, right? So, and I think that's one of the reasons that she was willing to try to get back with him.
I mean, and maybe because maybe Marvin wasn't telling her something that she was completely unaware of. Maybe she knew, like, I need to kind of get this in line because he's going to be leaving soon. Even if he leaves for Arizona State and that's close, he still is not going to be available to you in the way he is when he's living at home in high school, right? He's going to have his own life. She knows that. But I've seen, and I'll just say straight out, like, I've seen plenty of mothers with these sons, especially ones who don't have more than one child. These mothers, single mothers with just a son, and like, damn, they expect the kid to just never leave.
Yeah, but as a slight to Gloria,
okay,
did she only go over there because she was lonely?
Now,
Tariq left, you let him go, and now it really sets in. Now let me go apologize to this man.
And after I rewatched that part, I do want to say that her pain probably did compel her to go over there as well. That was a factor. I would say that was a factor. Because in that moment, she's like a little bit broken.
Yeah. But she don't have a companion anymore. And it's very interesting. She don't go to her girlfriends. She go to him.
Because she knew who could fix it.
Count on
Laying
me.
up, sitting up with Savannah and them wasn't going to fix this.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to fix it. Bernadine didn't have the recipe for this. She had it right next door, and all she had to do was go and not be prideful and admit where she was wrong, and it could be fixed.
Yeah.
Because Marvin was a good man.
Marvin was a handy
Unlike the
man.
one Savannah Mama Kevin, that's a good man. Kenneth was not a good man. Marvin was a good man. So that pretty much wraps up and completes our entire series now that we have done on Waiting to Exhale. All of the videos on each of the women are out now. And please be sure if you've missed one to go back and watch it.
If you found yourself watching multiple videos we've done on this movie and you're still not subscribed, hit subscribe right now.
Yes, please and thank you.
If you made it this far into this nice long breakdown and analysis of the 1995 film Waiting to Exhale, type The Handyman in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stuck around.
And thank you so much for sticking with us all the way to the end. And be sure to check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And if you're not subscribed to our other channel, AxiomAmnesia, make sure you subscribe. The link will be in the description so that you can watch all of these. We have way more videos over there on these movies than we do here yet, but we're working on it.